Villagers, thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. Division has been the problem of the African for a very long time, and people are thriving in the continent as a result of the division that we have among ourselves, and we are not ready to close that gap. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso kicked out France, and we are seeing that another African country is opening the door. Look at about 30 leaders in Kenya to meet with Macron, who has lost influence in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Professor Lumumba has to touch on this same division and why Africans we are not moving forward, because dividing among ourselves is the reason to which these people play on the African. That these people come here in the name of partnership, which we know Macron openly said this to the world, that I am in Africa for my interest and not to come and cause a change. Yet, when Macron entered Africa, Macron still presented himself as a partner, and the Africans still believe that Macron has changed based on the speeches and the promises. Like Professor Lumumba made it clear to us, these people will never change. They are never here because they want Africa to move forward, and that Africans should be ready to speak with one voice. He cited Kenya and Tanzania. It's like these days that he said things are coming. We are seeing that same division everywhere.
What is Macron trying to do is trying to raid the former colonies of the United Kingdom and Portugal. That is why you've seen Emmanuel Macron in Luanda, in Angola. You've seen Emmanuel Macron in South Africa. And you've seen Emmanuel Macron very present in Kenya, which is going to host the Franc-Afrique meeting. What is Franc-Afrique meeting? The first Franc-Afrique meeting was held in 1973. If you ask the French, they'll say it is the then president of Niger, Hamani Diori, who asked for the meeting. But the truth was that it was the then French Prime Minister Georges Pompidou who asked for the meeting, and the meeting was held in Paris. And the whole idea was that the French wanted to keep their former colonies under their economic check, destroying Algeria. And when the countries become independent, a number of things happen in the former French colonies. Number one, they retain military presence in all their former colonies in the continent of Africa. They control their currency, CFA franc, whether it is in Central Africa or in Western Africa. They control everything from Paris. And of course, France, as we see it today, is reminiscent of France in the 1940s and 1950s in terms of what is considered to be a loss. When there was a coup d'etat in Guinea, a coup d'etat in Niger, a coup d'etat in Burkina Faso, and a coup d'etat in Mali, the leaders of the Sahelian republics said they don't want French army. They said we don't want French currency. They said we don't want anything to do with French, including mining companies. And Emmanuel Macron, whenever I see him, he's trying to cast himself in the mold of Charles de Gaulle. This great leader who is an avatar of Charles de Gaulle, who wants to make France great again, if I'm to use that terminology. So when you see the activities of Emmanuel Macron as we stand today, understand it at two levels. Level number one, there is a France that is losing its power in the former colonies in the Sahelian Republic. And even beyond the Sahelian Republic, they have trouble with Senegal, which has said we don't want your army. They have problem in Gabon, where there was a coup d'etat. There was a near coup d'etat in Benin. They don't have the control that they would want to have in Togo. In Central African Republic, there is also the presence of the Russians and a contested election. So they are losing out. And what is Macron trying to do is trying to raid the former colonies of the United Kingdom and Portugal. That is why you've seen Emmanuel Macron in Luanda, in Angola. You've seen Emmanuel Macron in South Africa. And you've seen Emmanuel Macron very present in Kenya, which is going to host the Franc-Afrique meeting. What is Franc-Afrique meeting? The first Franc-Afrique meeting was held in 1973. If you ask the French, they'll say it is the then president of Niger, Hamani Diori, who asked for the meeting. But the truth was that it was the then French Prime Minister Georges Pompidou who asked for the meeting, and the meeting was held in Paris. And the whole idea was that the French wanted to keep their former colonies under their economic check. If you look at the statistics as I speak in the year 2026, there are over 4,200 French subsidiary companies present in the continent of Africa. In Kenya only, there are over 140 French subsidiaries. In the total employment would be in excess of 600 million. And they are in all sectors. They are in oil, Total Energies. They are in the mining sector. They are in manufacturing. There is in the area of artificial intelligence. They are in environment. And all these require a different type of diplomacy. And that is why the French have said in advance of the Nairobi meeting on the 11th and 12th of May, give us a second chance. The first time when we came, we wanted to control you. We wanted to engage with you militarily. This time our diplomacy is a little softer. We want to engage with you in technology, in the arena of artificial intelligence. But the question is it soft? If you look at what has happened in Kenya, they have entered into a military pact with the Kenyan administration. The net effect is that we have an Emmanuel Macron administration that we can actually begin to talk of Macronism as a system of diplomacy that has a carrot and stick. It is iron fist with velvet gloves, and that is what we are seeing. And you can see that the figures vary. The number of African heads of states and government that may appear in Nairobi on 11th through to the 12th are 30 and counting, which is perhaps bigger than the number of African heads of state that attend the ordinary session of the African Union. That tells you that diplomacy is working at different levels. Number one, the French are engaging countries bilaterally. So they go to Kenya, deal with Kenya. They go to Angola, deal with Angola. They go to South Africa, deal with South Africa. They go to Ghana, deal with South Africa, deal with Ghana. They go to Botswana, deal with Botswana. And in the last 1 month, you will have seen the president of Ghana has been present. Is a lot more sophisticated, may not be confused by these shenanigans. The president of Botswana has also been in Paris. So the Macron diplomacy is a diplomacy which is designed to protect France. And it reminds me of a statement made or attributed to one of the former French presidents, Jacques Chirac. Jacques Chirac at one time said, without her colonies, France would become a third world country. So there is an element of desperation that is driving this diplomacy by Macron. The other thing that is driving this diplomacy is superiority within the European system. The Germans silently, because their economy is larger, has been the unspoken leader. With Brexit, I think the French want to cast themselves.
Macron from France. It is important we let you know why Kenyans made noise to you at the University of Nairobi Taifa Hall. It wasn't because of disrespect or hatred. They had a message for you that their taxpayers' money has been used and wired to French firms to a tune of Kenya shillings 7 billion, being proceeds of crime, as their children are not in school and they have no food on the table. Mr. Macron, this is how it happened. On September 30, 2020, under President Uhuru Kenyatta's government, French firms were awarded a Kenya shillings 159 billion contract to build the Nairobi-Nakuru-Mau Summit Road. However, the deal was cancelled by President William Ruto administration even before the contractor commenced works, ushering in Chinese contractors to give room for corruption. The entry of the Chinese contractors, CRBC, came after the president visited Beijing in April last year. Based on reports emerging in May 2026, the Auditor General has flagged the irregular diversion of approximately 7.3 billion Kenya shillings from the fuel levy intended for road maintenance to pay French firms for the cancellation of the Rironi-Mau Summit toll road contract. Mr. Macron, your French firms had a contract of 150 billion for a bigger scope. The Chinese firm CRBC firm takes it to 200 billion on a smaller scope, creating a 50 billion fund for corruption by William Ruto and the Chinese contractors. But your biggest interest and the reason why your French firms accepted cancellation of the Mau summit was to get 7 billion shillings without doing anything at all. Mr. Macron, you are an accomplice in the 7 billion Kenya shillings theft from the people of Kenya. That is the money you have actually come to negotiate in Nairobi, not the summit that you are attending. Kenyans, this is a message Kenyans was passing to you yesterday. If you do know why they made noise, now you know. Kenyans are asking you not to leave our borders with this money. We needed to pay school fees. Mr. Macron, if Kenyans meet you elsewhere, they will make more noise. The children of Meru County risk missing going to school because your French national is demanding 64 million shillings from the county administration. This is due to a contested hotel, Leopard Rock at the Mau at the Meru National Park. Mr. Ruto knows about this hotel more than anybody else. Be informed that the military pact that you signed with Mr. William Ruto in 2025 on defense cooperation has caused a lot of discomfort to the people of Kenya. Kindly revisit. And as we speak, there is no contract yet for the construction of the Liloni-Mau Summit Highway because Mr. William Ruto wants an upfront bribe of 17 billion Kenya shillings delivered to him in cash by CRBC. But the CRBC are demanding the contract first before they give the money, and William Ruto is demanding the money before he gives the contract. That is the situation that we are in. So, ladies and gentlemen,
most African politicians, I'm very reluctant to use the word leaders when I make reference to most African politicians. They occupy positions of leadership, but they are not leaders, most of them. First of all, the intention with which they enter into leadership is the problem. They seek office because they love power and privilege and opportunity that it provides to them. They want to become wealthy. And the easiest and shortest avenue to wealth in Africa today is public office. With the minimum effort, you become a multi-millionaire. They go there in order to be worshipped. And they go there not to do the right thing. And once they have been in office, they do so many wrong things that it becomes dangerous for them to leave office. So their continued occupation of office is also to ensure that they enjoy immunity that comes with office. But when you are a good leader who does the right thing, you do not fear to leave office because nothing has changed. And I've seen leaders of that ilk in this part of the continent. And there are quite a number of sprinkling of leaders who have left office and are doing great things. Joachim Chissano in Mozambique. Ifikepunye Pohamba in Botswana. People like my good friend Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, Ali Hassan Mwinyi in Tanzania, Benjamin William Mkapa, Joachim Chissano, as I've said, of Mozambique. These are people who have left office and nothing is happening to them because they are men and women of integrity. John Mahama of Ghana. There are quite a number of them now across the continent who do not fear being out of office, and they are doing great things once they leave office. But there are others who will never leave office because the day they leave office holding all factors constant, they ought to be arrested because they are thieves and murderers. These are the highest crimes known to man. How can they leave office? And we know them.
These people always succeed in dividing us. And it's not like our leaders are not aware. That is why Duma Boko is advocating for another round of leadership. The leadership style in Africa has failed all of us, and that's the youth we are aware. The leaders cannot be bold to reject things. They can be bold to reject them in speech. But when we need these same leaders to take proper actions against these things, we find our leaders not willing to do that. And that is why Duma Boko said leadership failure. And we know that for sure. Because our leaders cannot take decisions to protect us. And for how long will it take Africans to wake up? We are seeing how busy the leaders in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are. Self-dependency. Look at all the things that are happening in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Look at the attack that happened in Mali. And how many of these leaders decided to go there and see their brother. But these leaders were able to group themselves to be in the presence of wherever there is a meeting that involves the oppressor. They can go to any length to be in the midst of these people, yet these people can never extend that love to their brothers and sisters. We've seen the deals they are signing, and they believe that it is an opportunity, because when you listen to the leaders who are there, always when they are in the midst of these people, they see it to be an opportunity. When we know very well, France do not have anything, and France is looking for places to get what it needs. But our leaders sees that as an opportunity. Instead of them to team up with their brothers in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, or learn from what they are doing, we still have this colonial mindset that before we can do anything meaningful for ourselves, we need these people to come here and sweet talk us in the name of partnership. But we need to understand as Africans, there is nobody that will come here and change the fate. Whatever security pact, whatever they are doing, is never going to help us. This continent is divided. The unity and the love for ourselves is lacking. If we were speaking in one voice, we could have asked this man not to come, not when Mali is on fire. And the leaders are pretending that they are not aware about the moves of Macron. Macron can never change. France can never change. Europe can never change, because they are here for their interests and not us. And they need us to survive, and not the other way around, as if we need them before we can survive. How come Africans are so divided that we find it so difficult to unite and to do something meaningful for ourselves? And I hope the generations that are coming wouldn't follow suit. And we need to break away from that system that is used to regulate the African. The system is the problem. And the leaders are making sure they keep the system which doesn't help the African. If we don't break away from that system, we can never have the Africa that we are looking for. Africa that will speak with one voice instead of these tiny, tiny voices. We have been divided. Now France is looking for people in the British colony, in other colonies, because he has lost power in his own colony. And they are not ready to move out because they don't ever want to feel defeated. So they know that if I am not succeeding here, I can succeed there. And they will continue to move among us. Africa, the time has come for us to wake up. We have slept for long. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall. And united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world and in Africa.